You can find the scoring rubric for the data analysis project report and presentation in a few different places. By now, you've seen that you can locate many of our course materials by clicking on Course Materials on Brightspace and then selecting Content. There are two specific content folders where you can find the scoring rubric. One of these would be if you selected Content and then clicked on Assignment Rubrics on the left-hand side of the page. You can also look for Unit 2 by clicking on Course Topics by Unit, then selecting Unit 2, and then clicking on Learning Materials. Again, you can find the Course Topics by Unit section in the left-hand side of the page when you look at content. Our general channel on Microsoft Teams also has a Rubrics folder under the Files tab. When it comes to your report and presentation slide design, you should follow the principles outlined in the textbook and Quizlet study sets. To expand on this further, I'll make note of specific considerations from the textbook to clarify the rubric criteria. We'll focus on your report document first. Again, well-designed documents are inviting and accessible. They flow well as a single cohesive unit. They provide a visual hierarchy, displaying information in the right order, and they address a diversity of readers. You should remember that readers will resist a document that is intimidating or hard to read, and will try to get the information in some other way. As you will discover in this unit, word processing, page layout, and other applications can help you with document design. But all the software in the world won't make a difference unless you first understand the basic principles of visual appeal and accessibility. Design elements help readers answer the question of, how is this document structured? The document design structure should align with the structure of ideas in your document. So, you should take another look at Chapter 5 to understand how you should structure your ideas for your readers, and then make sure that that correlates to your document structure in terms of design. When it comes to visuals, as a rule, you should use subtle and varied colors. Then, for your document, you should apply standard fonts and font sizes, and appropriate white space. Although I'll go into specific characteristics and principles you should adhere to when designing your document, I want to point out some specific parts of Figure 8.2, that is, the effective redesign of Figure 8.1, that will apply in your project report design. What you'll want to aim to do is use the title to define the purpose of the document. Use visual hierarchy by keeping all of the section headings the same as they are formatted in the report template, so the headers are designed identically. If you use 1-inch margins and appropriate white space around different visuals in your document, the document will be more open and accessible in appearance. When you are applying specific bulleted indents in comparison to general bullets, you'll want to make sure the more specific bulleted items are indented further in a different style of bullet. I'll talk about some different considerations for bullet style in a moment. Overall, your document should use a horizontal grid pattern. Consistent margins will give the document a unified appearance. Margins must not only be the same width throughout a document, but also wide enough. Again, you will want to use 1-inch margins all the way around the page. Whereas ordering information within paragraphs affects a document's overall structure, the shape of each paragraph serves a design function. Again, you should use long paragraphs to cluster material that is closely related or best understood in one block. You can refer back to Chapter 5 when considering how to chunk information based on your audience's needs. You should use short paragraphs to make complex material more digestible, especially when emphasizing vital information. So again, consider, as you're looking back at Chapter 5, how you can align your structure of ideas to the structure of paragraphs in your document design. The authors advise technical writers to keep long paragraphs to 15 lines or fewer. Readers are likely to resist a document that consists primarily of long or short paragraphs only. As you think about aspects of document design like orphans and widows, you want to make sure to avoid widows. Again, widows in this context are one line of a paragraph at the top of a page. In other words, if you have paragraphs that span multiple pages or straddle 2 pages, you want to ensure that the last line of text in a paragraph appears toward the bottom of the page or toward the bottom of a section on a given page. The document design guidelines and APA style guidelines dictate that text should automatically appear flush left, lined up evenly along the left margin. You will want to use unjustified text. Again, unjustified text has uneven or ragged right margins, but the spacing between words and letters on a line is even, and you can avoid overuse of hyphenation. You should avoid justified text in this context. Justified text is more acceptable for more personal forms of communication, such as letters, memos, and in-house reports. As you are thinking more carefully about white space, you'll want to consider how white space helps readers to focus on the text of a document. This will orient readers by keeping related elements together, isolating and emphasizing important elements, and providing breathing room between blocks of information. So keep in mind the report template uses single spacing with spaces between section headings. When inserting a long quotation, you should follow APA style guidelines for this particular written report. In the future, when you're writing technical reports in different situations, you can apply the specific guidelines that the authors provide in Chapter 8, Section 3. Regardless of your specific choices, you must be consistent. The template takes most of the guesswork out of the design process, but you should make calculated choices about the following elements. So you'll want to consider that your reader will navigate documents by moving back and forth, searching for the sections that seem most relevant, or scan only the main headings, skipping the lower level headings. You should use bulleted and numbered lists instead of D-level headings, and so again, you'll want to make sure that you use the section headings provided in the report template. You may remember that orphans are defined in the context of lines in a paragraph and as headings that stand alone at the bottom of a page without any text beneath them. You'll want to avoid orphans with your design of headings. So, if you can, you should move each section so that the section heading appears toward the top of the page or in the middle of the page. If sections span or straddle multiple pages, you can add a continued section heading to create continuity between pages. For example, if your data and results section spans or straddles multiple pages, you could add a Data and Results Continued section heading at the top of the new page. When it comes to visuals, you'll want to use callouts. These are labels that identify parts of a figure. You can also use leader lines, which are dotted, dashed, or solid lines that connect labels with their objects. Again, when it comes to visuals, some general rules for using color are: use colors that aren't overly bright, that don't obscure the text they cover, and that contrast well with black print. You may remember seeing that you are able to use color for different situations. When it comes to visuals, you can use shading to create emphasis. You can also use italics, but you should follow APA style rules for that particular use of italics. When it comes to bold or underlining, you should adhere to the textbook template. Whenever you include a series of similar or step-by-step items within a sentence or paragraph, you should consider using a bulleted or numbered list. Again, the design of bulleted and numbered lists Emphasize the information by separating it from the text. Again, some general rules for using bulleted and numbered lists include: don't overuse them. Don't use fancy icons when a plain round dot or square will do. And don't confuse the functions of bulleted and numbered lists. So, you may remember seeing that bullets function in a document by separating and highlighting equally weighted items. Lists that are numbered enumerate the fixed sequence of steps in a process. While you may not necessarily use numbered lists in every part of your document, you may consider if there is a series of different steps involved in your recommendation that could be applied. When it comes to running heads and footers, you should use these to help readers find material in longer printed documents, which would be the case for your written report. They also help readers stay oriented to their location in the document. So, in this case, you will want to include the report title in the running head. You'll want to follow APA-style rules when it comes to formatting the running head. As you saw in the textbook, page numbers may be included in either running head or footer in a technical document. In this case, for the written report, you will want to follow APA-style rules. So in this case, the report title and page number should appear in the running head. And you'll see discussion of how to format the running head in our APA-style resources, as well as where to place a page number. Now let's focus on the criteria for slide design. Again, you should not start your presentation by choosing a template. Templates can usually be modified if you need to change a font or color, but want to retain the layout. The more important thing is to create some kind of outline or storyboard for your presentation, and then deciding on a template after you've set up the overall outline or storyboard. Keep your presentation clean, clear, and professional. You can see the strong examples for visual depiction of consistent professional design, and the weak example to see what not to do. You can experiment a bit with animations and transitions, but be careful. Too much visual noise will distract your audience. Some additional tips from my experience include that you should avoid spinning animations, because for some people who experience motion sickness, that may disorient them. And you don't want to combine unrelated animations, such as if you use closed binds, have text entering from the left side and the right side, or applying several different animation styles and transition styles at once. If your topic involves spatial concepts or visuals that are best displayed in an interactive manner, you might try Prezi. For collaborative projects, you should consider using a cloud-based collaborative app. There are several types that you can use, including Google Slides, OneDrive or SharePoint for PowerPoint, and Microsoft Teams will allow you to edit PowerPoint files and share them with your partner. Some other ways to collaborate and store files include OneDrive and Microsoft Cloud, Dropbox, Google Drive, and Microsoft Teams. So as you're developing your slide design, you want to avoid cramming material onto one slide. It may help you as you speak, but will frustrate your audience. You want to consider when you can create breaks in particular sections, for example, your data and results section. Again, you can consider what the effect of an over-reliance on bulleted items would mean for your audience. It can oversimplify complex issues and distract from the deeper message. So you'll want to consider different ways that you can integrate bulleted lists effectively. I'll talk a little bit more about some considerations for when you can use bullets and the length of these items. Again, you should not let the application do the thinking for you. You should include an overview slide that describes all the different sections that you will discuss in your presentation. However, you don't have to go into a lot of depth for the overview. You can simply point out all the different sections of content that will appear in the presentation and briefly forecast each. You should aim for 7 to 9 lines per slide, with no more than 6 to 9 words per bulleted item. You can see how, when you design your slides, 7 to 9 lines per slide will give you plenty of white space or margins in between. If you have no more than 6 to 9 words per bulleted item, you can see how that also creates margins between the left and right side of the slides. Again, you should avoid using too many slides. Not all the sections in your presentation will require multiple slides. You will find that your data and results visuals may require more slides than the rest of the content in your presentation. After your recommendation, you should include a questions or contact information slide that you can use to wrap up the presentation. As I mentioned before, we'll talk about the presentation delivery criteria later on.